All right, today I'm going to talk about a different topic other than the whole, regular mental illnesses when we look at, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, trichotillomania, any of the OCDs. One thing I'd like to get into a topic on that really hits me really, really strong because of how I grew up is alcohol and alcoholism. Um, some people say it's a disease. It's something that can't be helped. It's no different than any of our mental illnesses that we have. I have never did a complete understanding when it came to alcohol abuse. I always thought that it was a self-choice. But one of the truths of the matter is most people that have, mental illnesses, they'll turn to alcohol or drugs or pills or something to try to make themselves feel better. And I've watched that happen over and over with my mother. And it's been a very, very rough ride for her. There was times that she went completely sober and she was doing really, really well, but yet she was still really, really depressed because of the bipolar. She was still having her mood swings and her manic attacks. So I figured I'm going to directly get on my computer and I'm actually going to do a little bit of research on this and discuss it and discuss how I feel about the whole situation. And actually get some actual studies on the stuff. Alright, let's talk with alcoholism. Right here on the Wikipedia. Alcoholism is a broad term for problems with alcohol and is generally used to mean compulsive and uncontrolled consumption of alcohol beverages, usually to the detriment of the drinker's health, personal relationships, and social standings, which I can honestly say my mother has experienced all that. She has experienced, the lows of the low, where, nobody in the family talked to her. And the alcohol just became her prime subject. That's how she lived. She drank so much that it's amazing that she is still alive. Regarding she has congestive heart failure and cardiomyopathy, it seemed almost like at certain points like she had a death wish. It is medically considered a disease, specifically an addictive illness. And in psychiatry, several other terms are used, specifically alcohol abuse and alcohol dependence, which may have slightly different definitions. So it is a disease, and it is something that eats at a person. It's no different than, how, us who have trick, we sit and pluck our hair, and we can't help that. People who are alcoholics, they crave it, they want it, they feel that they need it. It needs to be part of their life. That's I guess their sort of happiness that brings them some kind of peace. But in the long run, it ends up bringing more problems than what it could be used for. It can't be used for fixing things. It's a way more or less for them to ignore the problems and ignore the other underlying factors for why they're doing what they're doing. And my mom's alcohol abuse led to, I remember back when I was 15 and, we had that incident. And yeah, she threw me in the wall and choked me. She left a black and blue ring around my neck. And I was so upset. And I remember telling her it's me or the alcohol. And she went out drinking again the next day. I felt like she didn't even care. And I didn't completely understand that it was something that she could not help. I don't know if other people are going to agree with me, but I know from what I've saw and what I've experienced with it, and I know it's a very, very hard thing to deal with. When somebody even comes off alcohol after drinking and they go through that detox, it's really, 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 really bad. She went through it, and they more or less had her doped up the whole time on medicine because her heart couldn't withstand coming off of the alcohol. She was in no shape. My stepdad at that point did not even want me seeing her. It was really, 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 really horrible. And they usually say sometimes it takes a person to hit an all-time low before they'll want to pick up and actually try to make the improvements in their life that they should want to make. Alcohol is, it can be absolutely awful if it's misused and mistreated. And most of the times in them cases, it is because of an underlying condition. It's because either the person has bipolar or borderline or depression, and they just want to drink their lives away because they don't want to sit and think about everything that's going on around them, everything that makes them sad, everything that hurts them. They feel alone, and they feel like the alcohol is their only solution. And it becomes extremely difficult. I posted the other day about, the fight that I had with my mom, and, what was said to me. And, me and her talked today. And I said, after everything I'd done, I go, why on earth would you say what you said to me? And it wound up being a complete misunderstanding. Okay, so in between the phone ringing and, now I got my son right here. He decides he wants to jump in instead of watching his cars again. He's saying, peekaboo, go watch your cars. The alcoholism's affected me to the point to where I don't want to drink. Mom. I don't want nothing to do with it. What? And this here is why. I don't want my children exposed to that. I am a mess enough with what's wrong with me. I get my mood swings. 1 minute I'll be fine. The next minute I'll be completely irrational. And it seems my camera is going dead, so I gotta plug that in, or we're not going to have any type of reception whatsoever. What? The cool thing about this camera is I can plug it in and I can still run it at the same time, which I do love. But yes, the alcohol can be a huge issue. And I think people need to do more research on alcoholism and, the effects and, how it affects not just the family, how it affects the abuser themselves, and why they feel such need to have such a negative substance in their life. Because anybody who drinks, there we go. Anybody who drinks already knows that you're not yourself when you're drinking. Most people, I watched girls get up on the stage when bands were playing and make complete fools of themselves while they were drinking. And so it does have them impacts on your mind. But if you already have psychological problems and then you add that other element to it, it tends to make it worse. And in my mom's case, it'll bring out, her being vulgar or her being angry, and she just lashes out at everything. And it's very, very difficult. So if anybody has alcohol problems, the best thing to try to do is to understand, to talk to them. You're not going to make them stop drinking. No matter how many times you tell them, it's the alcohol or me, or I'm going to leave you if you stop drinking. If you don't stop, it's not going to happen. They are addicted to it. Just like I said, like with the trick, we pull our hair, and most of the times we don't know we're doing it. We're literally addicted to pulling out our own hair. It's become such a habit, and it's become such a part of us that we don't know anything other than that. With alcohol, it's the same way. They don't know anything other than the alcohol, and relying on that to solve their issues or to, comfort them. It gets extremely difficult. And when you hear from family members, who have had to deal with alcoholic parents, or, brothers or sisters or even friends, it gets really, really, really hard. And most people don't know how to treat it. They'll call them drunks and everything else. And when the fact of the matter is, most of these people who are alcoholics are actually mentally ill. They have a lot of issues. And the issues, that's what needs to be worked on. They need to work on the issues for why they're drinking. What's causing their depression. If they have underlying conditions like, bipolar or borderline, and they need to get on the proper treatment, and they need to wean themselves away from that alcohol, because for them, it's going to be really, really negative. It's not like for a normal person to go out, okay, we can have a couple drinks and we're fine. An alcoholic will go out and they will drink and drink and drink and drink and drink until they're so messed up that they don't know what they're doing or what they're saying.
Exactly.
And that's a really, really bad cycle to go through. That's how they lose friends. That's how they lose family. And that's why they end up alone. But that's not a permanent solution. There needs to be understanding with it, and there needs to be different ways and different approaches taken to it. You know, like I suggested to my mom, you know, her going off about my site, which I think she completely misunderstood it. And once again, that trails down to her line of thinking with the bipolar. You know, she only thinks things one-sided, and she tends to get paranoid and thinks that everybody's out to get her. Well, like I told her, I said, why don't you come on my page and talk? You know, talk about how you feel, how your emotions are, you know, your mood swings when you feel really, really good, and then, you know, why you feel really, really bad, and why you're so down on yourself. And talk, and maybe other people will respond, and you'll get a communication basis and make a nice big circle for everybody to come together. And that's what needs to be done. It's not just about me and my trick, or me and my borderline, or anybody, or you and your, you know, bipolar. It's about an overall achievement of trying to bring everybody together so that we have less people who feel alone in the world. Less people who say, you know, I saw a video of a girl said that she had trichotillomania, and the doctors didn't know what was wrong with her. They didn't know what was going on. She felt so alone. You know, she felt like she was the only one in the world who had this. When I found out I had trichotillomania, I found out through Montel Williams, of all places. And, you know, just hearing them girls' stories and how they were talking about it, and I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm doing. That's what's going on with me. And at the time, the doctors didn't even know what trick was. When I went into my first psychiatrist about it and actually came to them about it and told them what was going on, they didn't even know what it was. So nowadays, we're starting to get more understanding to what trick is, but we're not getting into the understanding about the treatments. With alcohol, you know, we understand what, you know, being an alcoholic is. And we understand, you know, it's alcoholism, and yes, it's labeled as a disease. It's an illness, and it eats at the person and eats at them until there's nothing left. And I watched it happen over and over. My whole family's alcoholics. Me and my brother are a few of the ones who are not. And we've watched it eat and decay at family members. My stepdad sweats out beer. I mean, he drinks from the time he gets up to the time he goes to bed. He just cannot go without having that beer. He has got to have it. And there's deeper reasonings for why this is going on and why people are turning to these substances. And them are the reasons that need to be resolved. But of course, you need somebody who's willing to cooperate. And I can only hope after my mom sees this video that she will be more willing to cooperate with her doctors and get on a proper medicine. Because at this point, from me seeing from a third perspective of how she's acting, she's behaving reckless, and, you know, and she feels very, very alone. She doesn't have very many friends. And I want to see her have friends, and I want to see her be healthy. And I want to see the doctors find the right medication for her to help treat what's wrong with her. And I know it's always going to be a give and take, you know. Some are going to work, some aren't going to work, some are going to make you more crazy. The medicines can have a very foul impact just as well as what they can have a good impact. It all depends on the person and, you know, how the doctor is treating them. But one of the first things I could say is that alcohol will not go with the medicines. It will make it worse. And that's a whole other issue that needs treated as well, without making the person feel like scum, without making them feel like they're just a lush or they're just an alcoholic. You know, like they just don't care, because deep down they do care. They just don't know how to stop, and they don't know the right routes to take. But then you get people like how I was, and I still can be, that try to say, you know, you either need to stop or don't talk to me. And that's the wrong way of doing it. And I was wrong for even trying to put that on my mom. I get to the points to where I just, with what goes on with me, that I have troubles handling it with her because it hurts me. I don't like seeing her like this. I want my mom back. So, hopefully, we can get some more understanding, you know, with alcoholism and different treatment effects and everything else. Instead of people just looking down negative on these people, try to look at them for why they're doing this, why they're behaving so reckless, look at the underlying conditions and actually get a really stable treatment plan for them so that they don't fall back to the alcohol and so that they can actually live a happy, healthy life.